thinking about art in a way of like actually making it, not just enjoying it, and how art in all of its forms are just they're just an experience. Like you go to a concert for the experience, you go to a performing arts for the experience. You know, Cirque du Soleil shows are great for that type of experience and stuff. And visual art should be no different. It's all about the user experience. His name was Ngaro. He and my mother were dating at the time, and he passed away last year, unfortunately. And I have a few of his pieces on the wall behind me as well. But he taught me a lot about like art and stuff. My mother has always been like a business mentor for me as well. And we just kind of started working on some art projects together. I moved to Atlanta looking for like a business job doing like accounting or something. I don't know what I was planning on doing. There was just work there. And I spent my last dollars on like some enamel supplies that when I was out in New Mexico with Zingaro. I learned a few tricks of that, and I just like, you know what, if I'm gonna go, I'm just gonna spend my last dollars on something that I just was enjoying at the time. And just started experimenting with it and started making gifts for people, kind of, because I couldn't really afford them. You know, I was just unemployed kid and trying to make, you know, in a great recession. And yeah, so then that kind of developed into Spiritiles, where there was a lot of collaboration with Zingaro, my mother, and then we just kind of turned that into a business. It's been a teamwork game ever since, you know. There's no, you know, path to it is a long path. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, tell me more about now. So something that Zingaro said was to make art an experience. Tell me more about what he meant.
Well, I don't, there's no telling what anybody means. But for example, with the Spiritiles, you know, you get engaged to them with some, you know, shiny, very good coloring. Use a lot of color wheel tricks to make sure that the imagery is engaging. All of them also have something very appealing that makes them consistent, in that the designs all follow the golden mean spirals. So when you put them together, they all kind of unify, even if the designs are less consistent. Like, you know, I mean, like the styles can be different, but as a whole, they still maintain a unity. And it makes, and that's there's been a lot of positive byproducts from that I was unexpected to anybody, I think, you know. But then putting stories on the sides to make them engage. My mother's a writer, and that just came kind of obvious. Like, you know, like, well, we got some great imagery on here. What should we do with this? And, you know, and now got some great stories that really like, we're talking about the experience. It's hard to describe to me, but that really pulls you in. And then the stories are what actually invokes a lot of more emotion than just imagery does alone.
Awesome. When you say, I've read that before, that this idea of the golden means ratio, can you explain that a little bit more? Like, what is that exactly?
Yeah, sure. I actually have a whiteboard. You didn't know that.
No, I didn't. I'm impressed.
I always have a whiteboard in my workshop, but I actually wiped it off before this. I was blocking some trash cans and stuff over there. Awesome. The golden mean is a ratio of 1.618 to 1. And I don't know why it works, but it's like the way that things grow. Like where it goes from 4 to 9, it has something to do with the Fibonacci sequence. But when you draw these out, besides learning like all the details, you can Wikipedia that, but it looks like this. And that's how big a box will grow. It comes into that shape, and then there's a spiral that goes in there that looks exactly like a seashell. And those are all over nature. It's a very natural number, and it always points to a good spot. And you can overlap these spirals and stuff and do all kinds of cool stuff with them. But when you're looking at a tile, there's always going to be like some, you know, photography has like a rule of thirds to it. It's almost exactly the same thing. It's why the rule of thirds works, but the rule of thirds is actually off by a couple of you know, ratio or whatever.
0.05. Wow.
Yeah, but what you're really seeing in the rule of thirds is the golden mean, and that's what makes it appealing.
Awesome. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
art really comes down to math.
doesn't everything always come down to math?
Yeah,
Math
yeah,
is like the
even
only
music.
real truth. Yeah,
It
music as
is.
well. Yeah.
So it's all the more reason, all the more fodder to get my kids to study math more when they're in school.
Yeah, the color wheel also has a lot to do with math as well and how your mind interprets colors, which is interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of folks were questioning how the actual ideas for Spiritiles come, where they come from. Does it start with the quote? Does it start with the art? Like how does a Spiritile become a Spiritile?
Uh, you got to carry a notebook with you if you want to capture ideas, because they will come to you and then they will just disappear and you can't ever remember them. So you have to write them down. So I turned my wallet into a notepad with like the little moleskin notes in there. So I'd always have a pen and paper on me. That's the trick of habit, you know? So if you really want to be 1, 2, 3, be creative does not exist, but everybody has experienced a moment where they saw something and it made them feel something, right? So you just got to try to find those emotions everywhere you are and write them down and what made you feel that way, or draw a little sketch, like a 30-second sketch to go along with it. And that's how.
Awesome.
It's a trick of habit. It's a trick of habit more than talent.
So habit in that you're capturing the feeling when it occurs. Because it sounds like
Yes.
it's an emotion, it's led by emotion and not necessarily either like an image or a story. It's really.
It is, and to look at, and you need to look for them from everywhere and anywhere. I read a book a long time ago called like Bad Artists Copy, Good Artists Steal. You know, I think everybody's seen that or something to that. You know,
Sure.
you gotta steal the ideas for yourself. So, you know, it's the difference is your application of them. And that's just like, it's very human to learn something from somebody else and apply it to some other problem you're trying to solve, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think Picasso actually said that too. He just said the best artists steal. So
Yeah. Well, you're stealing from nature to begin with, you know, like the Pantheon and things, they're all in that same proportion. This is an ancient thing. Some guy named Fibonacci came up with it or something.
awesome. Well, so would you say then it's fair to say that your life experiences have shaped the Spiritile collection?
100%, but that's not to say if you have a good idea, I think it would be either naive or egotistical not to try to get other people to get their good feelings into your head as an artist. You know, like send me your ideas. I welcome it. You know, like I love the you know what you should do? I'll perk up whenever I hear that, you know? Like, you know what you should do? I'm like, tell me. But they gotta start trying to hit those questions to get that feeling out of somebody else. And there'll be questions like, what is it about that you love? You know, how did that make you feel or something? You know, it's almost like a basic psychology in a movie. You see people laying on the couch with those kinds of questions, you know?
Totally. And one thing I would love to share with the group is for those of you that aren't familiar with the Giving Tree entirely, we have stores in New Orleans in the French Quarter, and we were fortunate to work with Houston and his team to create a custom Spiritile called the Big Easy, and that's exactly what Houston's team did. They said, hey, you know, how does New Orleans make you feel? Like, what is it that inspires you about New Orleans? And they suggested we create a storyboard, and I'm just gonna try this with you right now, and I'm gonna share my screen because I'd love for you to see our New Orleans storyboard really quick.
You created a storyboard for this, like a...
Yes. So this is what inspired us, you know, to actually get to the Big Easy as it is known today. And the story of the Big Easy is everything in New Orleans is a great idea. And these are all our favorite things right here. All right. Let's see. So I just wanted to share that a little bit with you folks. All right.
Yeah, I think we could go through every single image in that and be asking those questions about what is it about that that you like, you know? Do you have an experience where you're sitting there when something awesome happened to you, you know?
Right.
What happened? Yeah. What did you
Right.
do
No,
after that? Yeah.
yeah,
How
absolutely.
did you have any hand grenades or what are those things that paddles? The
I,
hurricanes.
hurricanes,
Yeah.
yes. But I think
Yeah.
there is also a grenade too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Oh,
a
so
tropical
fun.
isle.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. So the other thing I was curious to know was because it's been about 10 years, right, since the dawn of the very first spirit tile.
Oh yeah, I actually have an early one here, and it doesn't have a date under it on it, unfortunately. Apparently, it was labeled model 802 tickled ivory. And the funny part about this tile is that you always want to correct it to make it straight, and it's never straight. So yeah, like,
So that was
you
an
go,
early tile. Wow.
yeah, it has the stories on the wrong. I did a lot of research on which ways to put the stories on there, you know, and they're put on there so you can flip it and read it very easily. And that took a trip to Best Buy to see how like things in Best Buy and boxes and stuff, how the labels are written, like on D, and I found them on DVDs that were like the whole box, and it made it real easy to read it,
Okay.
you know, on
Wow.
both sides. I was looking for things about the same size, like products in places. I think I went by Lowe's too, but I didn't find anything there. But like somebody else has already figured that out, I would assume. You
Wow.
know, so if you have a problem you're trying to solve, somebody else has already solved that problem. Just go look for it somewhere.
Yeah,
And this time it was easy
absolutely.
to find because it was shape, but that's the wrong way. It makes it hard to read, you know, or you have to like put two hands on it, and that hurts the user experience, which is the whole point of art, is all about the experience. And it's so much easier to experience it with one hand.
Yeah. Wow. Who would have
Yeah,
thought that so much went into that?
yeah. Well, I got one here that's like it's a larger version of Wild Child
Hmm.
that you can't. It's hard to handle with one hand.
It
You
looks
know,
like
like
it's heavier than the regular
oh
spirit tile.
oh, absolutely. It's like it's a Spiritiles, but it's square,
Right, right,
and
right.
it doesn't have the same tactile weight. Doesn't It's not actually in golden mean proportions, you know. So it actually is blocky. Yeah, the whole experience. It's while a great idea, the whole experience is inferior.
Right. And
Yeah.
honestly, and what a testament I would say to the fact that it never occurred to me, like it's always just an enjoyable experience and I don't stop to ever ask why. And I think that's
Yeah.
part of it. Like when we see
Yeah.
gymnasts or dancers do what they do, it's like, oh, they make it look so easy. And
Yeah,
it
it's
just
effortless.
carries it.
Yeah.
Yeah, carries
Nobody
it
needs to
through.
know about the hard work. You just need to
Yeah.
see the end experience is all you really as a consumer. You just want that heightened experience, you
Right.
know?
Well,
Yeah, that's where it's
absolutely.
at.
So as time went on, I mean, fast forward, 5, 8, 10 years later, I mean, has anything changed and for you, as it relates to the creation of Spiritiles? I mean, one of the things that I know I love and I think everyone here loves is just the messages and the feelings that we get for them. But now that it's become a business and now that it's become, you've had to increase your production to meet the demand that's out there, has it changed for you?
Um, Well, there was a change in there that you threw onto me that I didn't make. It always has been a business since day one, since conception. Because if you want to turn something you love that you're going to spend your last dollar on, you better make a business out of that if you want that to succeed. You know, number one, you're willing, like seriously, that's a situation that I was put in, and that's the only way out. You know, like I'm going to go this way with it. Why not?
So in essence, you're saying it's always been about the business of Spiritile, and it's just an evolution of the same.
I would say the design and creation of every single one of them is more of a hobby. than it is like actual, because like when it comes down to like the 9 to 5 thing, you got like you got to sell it, you got to make it, you got all these things, you got like reconcile your bank account. I had a background in finance, so you got to make sure that the business is there. That's like the #1 tip for any young artist: go to business school, without a doubt. Right. Yeah, like make it a business, and then you'll be on track.
Awesome. Well, I know that everybody is dying to see an actual demo of glass enameling.
Absolutely. Let's see. This is actually extremely boring process, so you'll have to bear with me a little bit. I'm gonna try to give you all some choices to make. I have some stencils here. Okay. Do you have a preference of any of these, Deb? Do you want like explosive looking?
All right.
My grandmother's doily on her tea table looking. Ooh, Star Spangled Banner looking. Spiral. Better spiral. Crazy spiral.
All right, I think everybody should decide. Let's see, everybody type in what they're interested in seeing made.
All right, and while we do that, I have what we're going to be making here is just a small piece. It's not gonna,
Oh, good choice, the fleur-de-lis.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, for you, yeah, exactly. Which side do you want, kind of thing. It's actually 2 pieces that I just glued to a piece of Llew board. But it may come out like this, so I'm preemptively apologizing. I don't know what the glass is going to do. I'm getting better at learning, but this is where the teamwork comes in, because I got a couple people that I work with. Some of my coworkers are amazing at like stuff like that. They're better at it than me, Yeah. It's probably going to look something like this, maybe, hopefully. That's not terrible. And I lost this stencil. I'm sorry. I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. That's all. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So what do we have? What's our pick?
So the grandma's doily pick.
Grandma's doily. All right. Here we go. Grandma's doily. I like it. So we're going to take a piece of, let me see if I can just bring you over here closer and just look down at this. I just kind of got it on a little, you have to tell me if it's good or not. Better?
Yeah, that's great.
Perfect. All right. Give y'all something better to look at. All right, so I'm gonna start with a piece of copper. It's actually pretty thin. You can cut it with like decent scissors. Any decent scissors will cut this copper. I'm using thin copper, well, because it's malleable, not just because it's more affordable, because it's very malleable. It makes the experience when you're mounting the piece to the frame, that wooden frame, that's extremely important that be a nice fit, because if it comes off of that, people are going to have a bad time. They're not going to like it. You want to stick to that as best as possible. That's actually what I think is our core competency as an art studio, is the framing process. I'm going to talk with my hands down here.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right, Deb, I'm gonna go to you and say we need a background color.
Okay.
And yeah, what do you want? A blue, red, green? What color you want?
Blue.
Blue. All right. This is some of the glass. It is transparent blue. It is very thin. It is made in America.
Awesome. Well,
Everything
I know that
here
that's
is made in America.
Yes, I know that that's a very important aspect of your work that I know you take pride in, and I know people would like to hear more about that.
Absolutely. I have a love for American industry. This is odd, but my grandfather, my mother's dad, invented rubber bands. He was a paper boy, and he started chopping up his bicycle tubes. And then he did some process engineering with some people, and they started Alliance Rubber Company. It is in business, the last remaining rubber band manufacturer in the U.S. They're based in Hot Springs, Arkansas. That's where I went to high school.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
anyway, he invented rubber bands, and it's like there's something special about America, you know, manufacturing and things, and it's sad to see a lot of that stuff, you know, like buying cheap stuff on Amazon. Everybody does it, you know. I love buying cheap stuff on Amazon. They come so fast. Not lately, but you know. But it's very there's something to, yeah, I like American stuff.
Awesome. So is it everything? So all of your materials are sourced by American made?
As back as I can trace them, absolutely. Even the copper is mined. I think our current supply came from somewhere in Arizona, I want to say. Yeah,
Awesome.
like we buy it from somebody else, you know, that has a bunch of big giant. They do use it for industrial applications. We're like a small customer for them, but a customer nevertheless. You know, there a lot of the stuff you can find in industrial applications, but the quantities don't make it easy for artists to use. So I now misplaced my grandma's doily thing. I don't know what I did with it. Maybe I dropped it on the ground.
Did you put it in the little basket right there?
Oh, I have a ton of them in here. Ooh, this one's pretty close. This one's also pretty grandma doily.
Okay, that looks great.
All right.
Awesome. And Houston, you warned me that talking and making things at the same time was going to be challenging.
Oh, I cannot do two things at the same time. It's impossible for me to focus on two different things at the same time. So I apologize if I get quiet. I'm like, what do I need to do next? You know, that's actually how I lost grandma's doily. Is I was trying to do two things at the same time. Like thank you for pointing that out. Yeah.
Well, no, well,
nice save, Deb.
Well, no, I did want to just, you know, gracefully insert that this is, you know, obviously a very big first for us. I think Houston too, right? Houston, have you ever had like a virtual showing like this with anyone before?
Oh, you know, you got to start somewhere. Deb, you're very innovative.
Well, I just wanted to thank.
This is exciting.
Well, it is, and I know we're all grateful to come together and see this and learn more about everything. And I'm grateful for everyone for, you know, bearing with us while we do all this.
Yeah, so I put blue down, and then I just threw the stencil on top of there. Then I put orange, and I had a playing card around here. I usually use a playing card for this, but I'm gonna try to pick up the stencil without like disturbing the glass underneath it, and I failed. Oops. Should we try again?
Yeah, let's see it again. We should
probably try again. Yeah, we should try again. Okay. Fail number one. You know what I'm also probably should do is go ahead and put this onto a something I can put into the kiln, like a piece of.
All right,
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we'll see. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to get glass on that. This is all new to me. I haven't played with something like this in a minute. This is just what I could find this afternoon.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah. Take your time. This is very cool. Yeah. No, it's great to see all these little details that go into something we all enjoy so much.
Yeah, so each different color in every tile is laid down using a process just like this. You know, like but bigger and better tooling. You know, like you'd have like risers, and the stencils would be cut to a specific, you know, made to a size that you can grab them a little bit easier and stuff. Because if you're doing it, you start thinking about, how can I make this easier on myself? I'm going to make 10 of these. You know, how am I going to make it easier?
Wow. So every color that we see on a Spiritile is like the glass that you just put down now. It
is, and they're all going to have a different stencil. It's going to be a stencil, and it's going to be the if you look at like number 10, a loft, that's the simplest piece in the world to make. I'm not sure if you have one. Here we go. I have one right here. Yeah, perfect. So that's just two colors. That makes it very, very, very simple. You know, that was an early skill set, I would say.
But
Still
a
easy to
very
make.
effective
Yeah.
and beloved Spiritiles, I will say.
Yeah, you don't
Is
have to
always
make
a
it
favorite.
super complicated to give a good user experience. Some of them take a lot longer to create than others, that's for sure. But because they're all so consistently formatted, you always want, like, you know, it may take me for, like, I can maybe make 3 of something else by the time or 3 of those by the time I can make something else, you know, because of the number of, like, colors and stencils, and you got to line them all up and everything else. It's tricky. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Let me see if I can get this off of here a little bit easier this time. Okay. So now let me see if I can slide this onto this. All right. Come on around here. That's what we got.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah. Now I have a kiln over here. So let me put this down and see if I can change the shot here a little bit for y'all.
Now, how hot is that kiln?
Oh,
Wow. Okay. Wow.
1,478 degrees right now. It just rained, so I'm afraid that if I cook any hotter, that it'll put moisture into the piece. So I'll lower the temperature and hopefully can go for longer where it doesn't capture that moisture and burn off before it creates a pocket of air in it. Does that make sense?
Not really, but maybe other people.
trial and error. Yes, I'm cooking lower temperature. I like dry days. Dry days are the best. New Mexico has excellent weather for enameling, by the way. The South, not excellent weather for enameling.
So the moisture in the air will force, like, some sort of, like, bubbles or something?
Yeah, the moisture will boil.
Yeah.
And it'll push all your glass around.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit afraid of, not afraid like I'm gonna hurt anything, but like we're probably gonna get some pieces of metal pop off of the rack that's on, and it's just gonna land in the middle and create like a giant eyesore. You want the trick to get around that, just cut your metal to the same size as your other metal and it won't have anywhere to go.
Okay, wow.
There are a billion tricks, you know, you can learn over the course
I didn't realize that Spiritiles were so fussy. Really?
Yeah, well, it's fun, you know?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of problem solving.
Oh, well, I work with a lot of excellent problem solvers, that's for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let me see. Which one of these do I have a lot of choices here. I brought some tongs out in case we try to do something. If this works great and almost too easy, then we'll try something harder.
Okay. All right.
All right, so I'm just talking this out to myself of what I say every time I put something in the kiln. You know, if you're doing it every day, then it's a lot easier.
Take your time.
I haven't turned this on in weeks, you know?
Yeah.
And also, this kiln's left-handed. I am the least left-handed person I know. Like, I cannot do anything with my left hand.
Okay. Well, you best focus, and we'll just watch.
Okay. All right. Ooh, it's warm.
All right.
Okay.
I held my breath there.
Well, I held the door open quite a long time, so I'm going to lose a lot of temperature here, but luckily this kiln particularly has a lot of horsepower, so it'll get back up quick. It's a pain to lose all your... On a good day, if I can get that temperature up without the moisture problems, I can get that fire time down to about 2 minutes, I think, or we can, you know, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
The team in Atlanta can get that fire time close to down to that, but it just depends on the day. Some kilns are better than others too. I mean, it's
and tell me, like, with all these variables that you're talking about, like, how often, like, let's say for every 10 Spiritiles, do you get a tile that just has one of those like anomalies that you discussed, like, you know, something going by.
Reds are the worst. Oh my goodness. If you have a super detailed red piece, those are absolutely a huge pain. Red, like the chemical bond on the red just isn't as strong, you know, like doesn't matter what red color it is. They just like to flake.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
if you ask Chris, our production manager, which if we could lose a color in design, it would be red.
wow.
Uh-huh.
So that's the most challenging.
Yeah, but also there's also a challenge that we don't really have a good yellow, you know, like in our that's a unfortunate limit that I currently have unless I import some yellow from somewhere else. But then I'd be kind of breaking one of my guidelines.
So the color yellow is difficult to source, like actually, or it's tricky to work with.
It's difficult to source. It's the vibrant yellows, the process that's used at the American production of enamel, or the Thompson enamel that makes like jewelry enamel in America. Okay. Yellow is a tricky color for them to produce for their process. I worked with a process engineer for a little bit trying to figure out how to improve those things and even potentially making it myself. And the equipment's just kind of expensive that you need. And most of it's geared towards industrial stuff. So it's like, do you want 2,000 pounds of glass, but it's all going to be the same color, you know? Like,
wow.
Not really. Yeah.
That's
Small batch
interesting.
production. Yeah.
You know, one of the things I did to prepare for today was to take a look at some of the retired Spiritiles that have been really popular. And Day to Come, which I'm going to grab a moment, is predominantly yellow, and I wonder if people knew.
If you do the little like computer trick where you grab the color, it's actually quite orange. The trick there is that there's a blue, that sky. Can you hold that up again? Mm-hmm. That color of blue in the sky tricks your eye or your brain into seeing more yellow than it actually is. It's actually that's a Zingaro trick, but it's also in Brain Games, that TV show. A lot of tricks you can do like that. Yeah.
So you're saying this isn't yellow, this is orange?
It's not as yellow as it looks, that's for sure. Let's see what we got here. All right. It's I'm gonna give it a couple more, a minute or so more maybe. Let's see. Awesome. Here's a Zingaro trick. Look, open it up and shut it, and then remember what you looked at. You know, that way you're not just staring at it while you're deciding and losing heat, what you're looking at. Just open it up and shut it, and then process what you just saw. Okay. That's a good trick to not lose heat out of the kilns. And trust me, in the summertime, keeping the heat in the kiln and not in the air is like, it's not just energy savings.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I know that some people were interested in the larger scale works that you've been playing around with, and they were wondering if that's still on the table for you in future projects.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a couple of them around here somewhere. I'm going to check this out in a second. You can't leave the kiln. That's a rule. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't. Things get burned. Nothing is more annoying than you spent like all this time laying all this glass down, and then you decided to multitask and forgot about your piece in the kiln. It's real. Yeah. Everybody does it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna pull this out and throw it on this table here. It's stainless. I think it'll be fine. And then I'm gonna throw this piece of metal on top of it, and I'll tell you why after I grab it. Yeah, it's looking good. All right. Oops. All right, that fell on the floor. Okay. So got it. It's fine.
Awesome.
So that went smooth enough to try the super experiment later that requires excellent handling of something coming in and out of the kiln.
Yeah, I mean, hey, this is a great demonstration of just how tricky and finicky it is to make these spirit tiles.
Yeah. Okay. So it's almost like it's actually a kitchen tool for baking, like bacon, literally for like bacon on a grill. I throw that on top of there because I'm using that thin metal, and every person who's played with anything enamel is very aware that you're supposed to counter enamel so it doesn't just like pull
Curl
up
up.
on you. Yeah, that glass will just pull. You need to like do it on both sides, and there's a lot of people that are really talented enamelists that do things the right way and spend a lot of energy and stuff, you know. And I am blessed to not be a person who's super particular about how we get there, so long as we get there. And I like the cracks. Like you can make this without any cracks in it, and it's very difficult to do. You know, like
Wow.
you got to heavier metal, counter enameling. Like you don't want it to shift at all. You know, and if it does, it's gonna crack. So your goal is to not make it crack. But I like the way the cracks in the glass look. I think it creates the medium for me personally. I think that's half the point, you know. So there's a lot of jewelry and they're extremely talented, you know. With all kind, like I wish I had those kinds of technical skills, but for my applications, it's almost unnecessary.
Yeah,
So
no,
actually, I'll roll a rolling pin over it after we're done typically, and not more. It depends on the piece. If I think it has like a beautiful transparent sky background, I'm gonna probably roll that rolling pin over pretty hard to get more cracks and stuff in it, you know. And I think that the cracks in the transparent glasses really capture light, but the cracks in like opaque heavy pieces, like the one over your shoulder there, that sky is very opaque. So I may roll a couple cracks into it, but I'm not going to put a whole bunch of excessive ones into that because it's going to become is distracting at some point. But I do need it a little bit malleable like that, you know, where I know it's going to give just a little bit so I can actually press it's not like putting on a sticker when you're mounting like that metal to a frame, you know, using an industrial contact adhesive is what I found has been working best. But there's a lot of tricks to make it like to get it real tight on there. If I haven't mentioned, that's actually what I think is the core competency of like everything that we do. What's like our enamel work, you can find people that can do it perfectly every time. And some of our people can too, but why, you know? So we just got to set up standards like, you know, is it distracting to the artwork? Does it affect the user experience, you know? And
yeah,
that is such a hard tolerance level to hold, you know? Because
sure.
it's for each their own, but that's our standards of like quality control. Does it affect the user experience? A faulty framing, you know, like faulty getting that around the frame, if it cut, like that's a bad user experience. Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to find it there, like quality. Yeah.
Well, I personally think that those cracks give it just so much character, and I know it, and it really does capture the light and really adds a whole other dimension to every piece. So I know I think it's a great addition. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got bad lighting in here, like where I'm at. So, but I would grab it. I think it's really hot still. But that has enamel on it. You can see where we went. I'll see if I can bring it over here. In the meantime, I probably need to cool for about 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay.
You were talking about larger pieces a second ago. Now that I'm not
Yes.
in the kiln, yeah. I didn't make this, but this would be the experiment. Could we enamel this whole piece that I traded at an art festival for? And unfortunately, after that, I dropped out on the floor. I kind of hurt my confidence to try that today. I think I could slide it right there, but I'm like, but how am I gonna like smoothly get it in and out? Give me a minute. I'll get my confidence back up. I'm just kind of demoralized at the moment. And if I feel that way when I'm creating it, it's going to go into the piece, and that piece is always going to have that anxiety to it. So be calm, be happy.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Let's see. So actually, I have some takes a lot of experimenting, a lot of prototypes, you know, to get to a piece. You're like, those glass colors in this order, using these stencils that are all created by my team, you know, every single bit of that. Anyway, so we're like, how about we take this bicycle and change the color, you know, or this one, or, you know, got a ton of them.
Wow.
Yeah. So just trying to pick out some like colors that I thought would be on a, this is actually something that we did recently for a collector who wanted a blown up version of a Spiritile, but was willing to, everything is possible, but most people don't understand the cost associated with, like, you know, like it's very labor intensive. So, but this person was like, yeah, I want that. Absolutely. Yes, sir. You know? Yeah.
Awesome.
Anyway, so I have a few variations going back to like, to
Wow.
this size, you know, like let's take the original coloring and mount that up. But that one actually shipped and sold, I think, like the one that was like just one panel, but then it turned it into like 3 panels. And that's what I was working with these, is to turn them into like a sunrise, sunset, middle of the day kind of thing. Pretty cool. Anyway,
Wow.
larger. Also, if you put a whole bunch of these together, it's very, very, very cool. But if you think about it from like how are you going to actually do it? It means you're asking an interior designer to build every single one. You know, great idea. They can hang any way. They got like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and they're cool, like, you know, stuff. Zingaro did a lot of abstract stuff. I was like, you know, if we could just like modularize that or something, that was kind of the idea. But eventually you run into a thing, you're like, that's actually really hard to place in a market, you know?
Sure.
Like, who's going to buy that? It's hard to explain. It's hard for me to explain it now, you know? And I'm like holding it, looking at it, and it's just impossible to explain.
Right.
I always like this. Made a few of these. People like to pick their own frames, you know?
Yes.
Without
Yes.
a doubt, people just like to pick their own frames. That's, I have a lot of hobbies when I'm like woodworking, and frame shops, good ones, do an amazing job of hiding these seams, you know? And it's very difficult to do that after it's been made. But if you can make it to size, then you can sand it and then make it perfect every time without as much effort. But
Sure.
people want to pick their own frame colors, so you can't do that. You know, hey, bottleneck problem. Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, but like quite a few options for stuff like that, you know? Like I actually have this one on that frame hanging in my bathroom. I love it. It's great. Yeah. I made a tabletop that looks like this, but whenever you put another piece of glass over the top of enamel, it takes the sparkle away, and that's not appealing. Oh, this is just another color. They look the same, but they're different.
Wow.
Yeah.
Houston, somebody had a question about displaying Spiritiles outside. Is that something that you recommend or no?
Now, here's the enamel and the metal, it'll be fine. But that frame is wood, so it will expand, which will hurt the integrity of that contact adhesive where it's connected to you know, that bond's gonna break.
So you're talking about the large pieces that are framed. So it's not necessarily the work itself, but the frame is the thing that's vulnerable.
Oh, yes, yeah, exactly. Actually, for a larger piece like that, I have been working on ways to actually make those hang outside, and it's by using like a high density plastic and then mounting, you know, your whatever to it. And that actually, I have high hopes for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, like there's problems. There's always solutions.
Well, and so are you saying that the actual Spiritile, like the collection, you're saying that because it does start with a block of wood, and you're saying it's the adhesion to the glass and the wood.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it rained here last night, and I actually left this beautiful piece that I've been working on. Like I've been working, like got a couple people to sneak into the studio in Atlanta and do some things. All my stencil creating equipment is in Atlanta, you know. So got this beautiful piece, just like it's amazing. I love it, and that's always my favorite piece, by the way, is whichever one I'm currently working on. It really is. Like, which one's your favorite? This one. This is absolute. Tomorrow it'll be a different one, you know. But I'm really excited. But I accidentally left it outside last night on my porch, and it rained like 2 inches. I got out this morning, I'm sipping my coffee. I'm like, let's see how this turned out. So funny that you would mention that, you know, like what timing. But yes, it is fine. But it wasn't left out there for very, like, just like it got all wet and stuff, and then I dried it off, and it's fine. It didn't absorb into it. But if you left one outside for long enough, I would imagine that lacquer seal on the back, you know, to really helps that piece stay on there. I would imagine that will degrade over time if you leave it outside in humidity and stuff like that. That would actually. I left one outside of the studio, which is in the West End in Atlanta, which is about 2 miles south of downtown. And when I first moved into there, oh my God, it is not a good neighborhood. It's really gotten a lot better, you know. It's gotten a lot nicer, but it was like money laundering, recording studios, and chop shops. Like that's all that was in this compound. And me, yeah, I lived there. Yeah, but the rent was cheap, and that was good. So anyway, I forget where I was going with that. I got taken way back. Had an idea about how that felt. Something to do with trains. Yeah. Oh, what were we talking about?
Well, I know we were talking about just how we could display them outside and how.
Oh,
and
yeah,
how
somebody stole that one.
are.
That's what happened. Somebody stole that piece, and it was sitting outside for, God, it must have been like 6 years or so, and it was fine, but it was also underneath an awning. Okay. You know, and that particular like patio right outside that door, you know how it rains and it gets real humid, especially in certain spots. That spot was like so much concrete around it and stuff, and it drained real well, so it wasn't super humid. I think that could have, you know, like I just left it there, being like, this is amazing. It was a sunshine, an old soul piece, you know. It was like, yeah, this is like the first one that I made of that one, and I just set it outside to get some sunshine. And to see how long it would last outside. It lasted until somebody stole it. Yeah.
Awesome. So it sounds like it's not necessarily something you want to recommend, but if it's so long as it's covered, it may stand the test of time.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. Yeah, I wouldn't soak it in water by any means. You know, right. Like it's that bond will break, and that wood will expand and become something. You know.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to open up a little questions, open up questions to the group. Is there anybody that has any questions for Houston? And if they do, feel free to type it in via chat or unmute yourself. Oh, that's looking good. Very cool.
Yeah, so I'm open to the questions too, but I'm going to knock some cracks into this real quick. I'm going to take this it's like a rolling pin. Actually, sometimes you just use like a piece of wood is fine, like a dowel.
Oh, wow.
So that knocked a few into there. See them? But that also helped flatten it out a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, let's do it again and see what happens. Cool. Yeah, let's go this way this time. And crisscross. Yeah. Now it feels good. See, like looks good with all those cracks and stuff in it.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. See how it plays with the light more now too? Mm-hmm. It makes those patterns and stuff. I love that.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I mean. Like it grabs the light. Like that's how it grabs the light. It like creates all these little convex, whatever bowl shaped things or something, and like reflects it brighter.
And I know that,
and it makes it more malleable. Like it's gonna be easier to put this onto something.
Okay, so it serves a practical purpose as well.
It does. Yeah, exactly. You got to be faster and make sure you got your temperatures right with the more of those opaque colors. Make sure they don't curl on you because you want them as flat as you can get them. So you're not having to crack them. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, another thing that I love about the cracks is that it really does, make every single one truly a work of art. It really is, it's evidence that they are all handmade and no two are ever going to be the same.
Yeah. Take a flaw and turn it into a feature.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it the Japanese or that if a piece of art gets a crack in it, they actually fill it with gold, and so that it actually becomes its best feature. Like I feel like that's a tradition.
I've never heard that before, but I'm going.
Yeah, no, it's just, it made a lot of sense to me. It's like,
where's my notepad? Yeah.
Yeah. But I always thought that was really interesting because it's, that's life, things happen and you can, try and keep something and preserve it, but it's those unique experiences that we should highlight. And they did that by honoring it with gold. So
yeah, I like that. That's actually, that plays into the experience of your life too. It's always the stuff you remember, like, yep.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a question here. Somebody's asking for an online photo history of tiles that you have made.
Oh, an online photo history.
Yes,
and okay.
I know that, correct me if I'm wrong, but we do have available at least all the Spiritiles that you have ever made that at one point, not including, some of the other ones like the square, some of the offshoots, correct?
Oh, yeah, well, like all the images and stuff. I have like a collector's guide or something. That's all the active ones. And on the website, there's an order to them and stuff. I've been truly blessed that every time that I've filled my workload full of like stuff, I always try to revert back to finding myself more time for the stuff in life. So I've been, yeah, like I'm the worst person. I don't know about like knowing the number of the tile, like number 58 or whatever, I think it's raffles, maybe. Give myself about an 80% chance of getting that right.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm always looking towards the next one. And that's my favorite part about it is the next one, what's next, captured that and then looking forward. So I'm always amazed that some of the retired tiles have been, I like almost coveted or something. And that's amazing to me. Like I love mine. I especially have like, personally, I have like ones that are blemished a lot, like you were talking about with like giant cracks in them that I just thought were really cool looking. Yeah.
Awesome. You kept those for yourself.
Yeah, but there's it was something about a photo, like a video of all the tiles, like streaming or something. Does that exist, or is it like something that should be?
Right. I think that it was a desire, and I think that I believe that every tile that you've ever made is made available on the Retired Spiritiles section of your website.
Oh, absolutely. I believe you have a lot of them on yours as well.
Yes.
I know that whenever somebody's looking for a special one, that you're one of the first people I'm like, hey, dude, do you have this?
Right. Well, and we've been blessed. We keep our eyes out, for those retired tiles, because we do get a lot of folks that do just that. They really get their heart set on one that's not being made anymore. And we do have a question about why and how you decide to retire certain tiles.
Oh, that's a good question. And remind me of that one, because I do want to point out, though, if you're on eBay looking for a retired tile, it's quite possible you could be bidding against me, because I have this affection for since that those tiles have been out on an adventure and gathered experiences into them. And I want them to come back home to where they're loved, because somebody got rid of it. I feel bad for them, isn't that weird? But I might bet against you for some retired tiles. Yeah, just FYI. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Good tip.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I want them to come. I think they've gained experience or something. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Anyway, but back to the actual question. What was that one?
So the question was, how do you decide to retire tiles?
Yeah, you know, ones with the heavy red on there, you just kind of get frustrated with it sometimes. Of like, last time reminds me of a laptop that I had, a Gateway, and I did litter that thing on I-20 in Atlanta after it blue screened me one too many times in the middle of something. You know, like out the sunroof, and I would say some of the pieces with heavy red. That's probably been like not doing this is too many times. You know, like
Okay.
uncontrollable failures. You know. I just frustrated with it. Sometimes like I said, the glass supply coming in is the process that's used is rather unpredictable. You know, like
Okay.
it's a phase kind of thing. I've been there and seen how or watched them do their process, and honestly, it's very much an art form in that in itself. There, you know, they do small batch kind of enamel creating, and yeah, so sometimes the colors will shift and I can't get the right color. There was like a shortage of some kind of mineral that went into one time that prevented one color that was heavy in one piece that I couldn't find a substitute that looked right for. Sometimes I got a better idea, you know, or like, ooh, remember that one story on this? How much better would it be for this? Or like, the last TARDIS got retired because I had a better idea. That's a good one. That the sundial looks like a sailboat crossing the ocean, endless possibilities. You know, that was yeah, one of those moments that you have when you're on a boat and you're like, where do you want to go
Awesome.
today? You know, that's kind of the feeling. Where do you want to go today? I like that one. Yeah. But
Well, and I,
that was the last one that got released before this new one, which I'm really excited about, which is like Go America.
yeah, no, that
Yeah.
was definitely a timely release, the latest TARDIS. That was, yeah, it's been a favorite for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so one of the things that we did have a great question about was about exclusive tiles, the first edition of exclusive tiles. Um, and the question is, and I believe I can answer it, and I just want to make sure. This was from Whitney. She's asking, you know, are there first runs of exclusive tiles?
Like limited release tiles, like the Apollo tile last year or the holiday
No,
tile.
these are exclusive tiles to galleries. So I can share with you, Whitney, that you know
Yeah.
that there is most certainly like a first run of tiles. I mean, we started with only 10 of each custom tile, exclusive tile, and so there most certainly was just a very first batch. So it sounds like somebody was sharing that fact with you, but I mean, Houston, you attest. I mean, you have to start with a batch, and there are first editions, right?
Oh, I go through a lot of scraps and prototypes and stuff. So I'm not sure if you would consider the first failure the first edition or the first one that looks right. You know, good question. And yeah, once we kind of get it to look right, then I'm gonna just like, all right, I can just start like focusing on I can remake this. Can I make it twice? Can I make it 3 times in a row? And once you get it 3 times in a row consistent, you know that you're doing it right and you're on a roll, you know, so don't stop. And I don't know how to like it would just be a logistical nightmare to keep track of that after that, you know, like you kind of get into a groove. And if you've done like 4 or 5, I'm terrible at multitasking, but once you kind of get into a groove of things, you know, you can just put on like a podcast to get in the zone or something. Everybody has like something they can kind of like, whatever, maybe like some music or something. You just drift away, and all of a sudden you've just made like a bunch of something.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
we can
I like
get
to play
lost in
happy
our
things.
thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I like to
so
play happy things because it goes into the piece. You know, those happy feelings go into the piece. Yeah.
sure. Well,
Yeah.
and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, so I guess the answer is sure. I mean, there's definitely some trial that goes into those exclusive tiles, but you know, is a first batch that actually gets shipped to the galleries, and
Mm-hmm.
that would be the first run.
Yeah, but
Um,
not to be confused with batch processing. Each piece is individually made one at a time by hand, for sure. Like without like I refuse to batch process because you duplicate errors. It is a very error-prone process, and you don't want to have an error early on that you don't notice until, you know, you have like 20 of them trying to frame them all at once. You know, that's a bad process flow. You want to discover those problems that you have with it, especially like did I mention that people don't like playing with reds as much? Like the most beautiful color in enamel, you know, it just doesn't get the chemical bond that the other colors get. But if you have like a levels issue, which is like putting too much or too little down, you got to be very, very consistent. Because as you can see here, like on the edges, I went, like you can see where I didn't put hardly any down on the edges there. And then this red color is real heavy. So I picked that. You said blue, I was thankful because that's a real light, flowy color that I know that this red is a heavy color. When I lay it on there, as long as I don't sneeze or mess it up when I'm picking up the stencil and stuff, it's going to stay put. If I put another light, flowy color on there, it's going to do what it kind of wants, you know? And you've seen that with that, with the fleur-de-lis tile, that red that's on the face of it. You can't control that. That's flowy, whatever on top of it. There's just a reaction there. Cool, you know, but you can't control that, and you've got to get how much you're layering on top of something perfect, almost like it's like down to like the grain height, perfect.
Well, how long does it take you to make a tile from start to finish?
39 years currently and going. It takes everything that I have learned today to make this next tile. That's, you know, that's accurate. But I mean, just as far as like what's their like all the stenciling and all the design work, which is very labor intensive, is created. Then it really, some of them are easier to make than the others. You know, like you can imagine the loft tile. Got to lay down all that glass. You know, more colors, more fun, but also more time. Yeah.
Right. So it can vary quite a bit, just depending on the complexity.
Absolutely, without a doubt, yes. So I refuse to build simplicity into the designs. I think the best product possible is always the winner. You know, like, I want it to look good. Whatever has that best user experience, that's what you're going for.
We have somebody asking about the Lucy Spirit tile.
Oh yeah, that was my dog. She was sweet. Yeah.
And that was an active tile for as long as Lucy was active, and then when she passed, she decided to retire that tile.
I couldn't make her anymore. It made me sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was a good dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. I refused to be around when anybody at the studio, like, you know, like was making that one. It was like, made me sad to walk, you know, to see it.
Yeah.
Now I look at it and I have one on my wall, you know, looking like, hey, Lucy. Yeah. And every time I see a black lab, I call him Lucy.
Awesome.
But I would imagine that question is probably directed towards like, can we do other dogs and stuff? And while possible, I find that dog owners are very breed specific. So, and yes. What is it about that breed of dog that you love so much? You know, like I like that Lucy appreciated me all the time, no matter what, you know? Just,
Awesome. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I know that we're excited to discover what is on the horizon for Spiritiles, and if you have anything in the pipeline that you might want to share with us today.
I do. I've been working on the design of this since we've been kind of quarantined, just actually like thinking about like, what does this all mean and whatever, everything else, but and showing appreciation to people. And I'm appreciative for all those American heroes that have, you know, let us be who we are today. I think there's been a lot of sacrifices made by a lot of people before us that have allowed us to get here, and there's a lot of sacrifices happening every single day. And I've been thinking about how they've shielded us from things and trying to find icons that represent that. That's what it is. It's a tribute to American heroes.
Awesome. So this is a tile that is in the works. That's happening.
Oh, it got rained on last night, which is fitting considering the context in the image. You know, it's kind of funny. Yeah, it got rained on last night. Yeah, it was unintentional, completely unintentional, but it did. Yeah.
Wow. Well, and so I imagine this current climate and what's happening now is really moved you to have this come to fruition.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like that you have to write down those ideas and do them while we can, you know. That's and I've been blessed with many people that have been like helpful, and I have the best coworkers in the world. I really do, and I'm thankful for them too. But we've all been just trying to figure out how to navigate this like everybody else. I think that small local retail and artists and stuff, I think they're, you know, it's a struggle. Yeah,
For sure, for sure.
yeah. But I'm still
It's
thankful for those that are protecting us from all this. Yeah.
most definitely, and what a great combination. I mean, I know, you know, personally, and I've heard many stories too by, you know, the folks that we talk to on a daily basis that are moved by the Spiritiles and are thankful for their messaging during this time. And I know that they, you know, are finding personal solace in them and gifting them for that reason. People need to hear these messages.
Oh, that makes me happy. That means that means people are having the experience that that really does. That really makes me extremely happy to hear. I love hearing stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Send
I
me
mean,
your,
it's
send
without
me
a
your
doubt.
stories. Yeah, anytime. I love hearing stuff like that. Just that is exactly, I don't know. It's why we do what we did, I guess, you know. I don't know, that's why you do what you do. You love helping people find those things that mean something, you know, personal and precious. Nice.
Absolutely. It's been really moving experience. I mean, it's my favorite thing to sell by far because it really feels less about a sale and more about a connection with people.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's, you know, especially now it's when it's a difficult time to connect. It's great that we can do it. So this American Hero Spiritile, I heard it's going to be available next week.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping to ship you some by tomorrow. You know.
Excellent.
Andrew and
Very
Chris
cool.
have been up at the studio. You know, they're not supposed to be there till tomorrow or something. They've been staying. It's a big open warehouse space. You know, it's not as dangerous as it used to be. Yeah. So they've been staying on separate ends of the studio and working on this with me, and I think we'll be shipping you some tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
However
we
long
look
that
forward to
transit time is, yeah, it sounds about right.
Awesome.
So,
Well, and that I know that we're all gonna love to see that because I know that it's avoidable, and we see how many people are fighting on the front lines today, every day, and it'll feel good to have something to honor them. So that'll be awesome, and obviously applicable to past and future frontline responders.
exactly.
And then beyond that, Houston, anything else that's on the horizon after that?
Oh, you know, I don't know. I'm not really sure. There's always I have a big bucket list, you know, things that I want to do. One of the things I was excited about working on, I was actually working on it before this happened. I was like, it's like a piece that I could send you that's like this, that actually you can display in the gallery. Did you get one of these?
Oh, no, we didn't, but that looks very cool.
Yeah, well, this has got protective plastic on there to keep the fingerprints off it or whatever. But it's basically some stencils and some glass, and it kind of shows the thing. I was gonna have like a little card with it, you know. I thought I sent you one of these, but they're just a block. So I was working on that. I could show you how far I got with that in a picture, probably, if I have it. Here it is. The feedback that I got said, it's blocky and I need to hand it to people and it's awkward and stuff, and can't you hang it on the wall? You know, like I love direct feedback, and absolutely.
Okay.
So I can French cleat it to the wall. I like SketchUp. SketchUp's free if you ever like to draw stuff in 3-dimensional. Yeah. So that, you know, that'll have like the sifter hanging on the front, but that's how far I got. And then when this happened, you know, I believe that experience involves like holding and touching. Remember, I was like flipping them over, and I'm worried about people coming into the giving tree and being like feeling awkward about touching something, you know. So down below this, there is now going to be a box with gloves that you can wear, like white cotton gloves, to interact with the tile, so you can keep your hands clean.
Oh, that's cool. So this is
That
like
or
an
hand
interactive.
sanitizer. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
We'll have all the above available. So
Yeah.
this is essentially like a hands-on process, so you can actually demo what it is to make a Spiritile in the galleries.
It's about the user experience, you know. It's about the art experience and understanding it and seeing it, and people love like those experiments and like seeing how it's made and stuff. And I just think that's like a cool way to do that and actually have it there where you can even play with it yourself if you want to. I mean, like, you're gonna make a mess, so yeah, like, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll love to have that. And we hope that everyone will be able to visit us in Sarasota and New Orleans soon enough to play and actually be able to try what we saw Houston do today. Well, I think we'll wrap it up now, everybody. I mean, I could sit and talk to Houston all day long, but I'm sure everybody has things to move on to.
It's
and
lonely here in the workshop.
Well, and I know we didn't get to all the questions, so please know I will follow up individually to answer some of those things that came through. But otherwise, you know, we hope everybody enjoyed today, and we hope everybody stays safe and hangs in there. You can most certainly pre-order the American Spiritile right now if you'd like. We will ship that the day it comes in. We're super excited about that, and proceeds will be going from the sales of those tiles will be going to the first responders. So details about which charity hasn't been fleshed out just yet, but we do want to give back to those who are making that commitment daily. And but thank you so much, everybody.
Yes, thank you so much for letting me share. This has been absolute pleasure and exciting for me. You know, I love this. Yeah, this is great.
Awesome. All right, everybody, stay safe. Take care of each other. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.